Um, so the next topic is the community. So we've talked about this a while back, and it was kind of a few different things, but I think the main idea or the main synthesis of it, we could tie it in a little bit to that last conversation. So we were talking about different groups, and traditionally, like you go to prison or you go back in history, those groups are what language you speak, what race you are, what land you come from. Those are typically the groups. And I was thinking nowadays, since we have the internet that basically interlocks all of us across all distances, that bridges all language barriers, that does so many things to like basically dissolve those things that kept us locked into our groups before. Um,
You can literally communicate with anyone
yeah, and not only
globally.
that, like countries like the United States are big ass mixing pots of all different types of cultures and ways of thinking and that kind of stuff. And so, long story short, our idea or my idea was I was like, man, I want to change the world. And I was thinking, first of all, how do you do that? Second of all, what would I want to do to change it? And a big part of it was I felt dissatisfied with what there is out there as far as like personally, I felt like I struggle with not being able to find other like-minded people like myself and people that care about say, like taking care of the planet in ways that actually make sense. Not like Green New
The
Deal
word the
type
word that
stuff.
you used earlier, disenfranchised, I think really
Yeah, so like personally I've dealt with like mental health issues and like just issues as far as like having enough food sometimes. And I know that there's like super simple fixes to those things. Like one of the fixes would be like if we could plant more food, trees or plants around public areas. For some reason that's not like allowed. And I understand like to some degree the argument is like, oh, it will promote more homelessness, but it's like, well, I don't necessarily have a problem with that because like all of us start off homeless, you know? It's not till we're told we have to buy a plot from the bank that we become homeowners. And that's just kind of a debt based system. I would much prefer like all the land is open or we have a designated amount of open land and the people that choose to go here are kind of free in a sense and there's food, there's resources, there's different things and you can make something of yourself similar to how like it was when we first got to these different countries like when like frontiers and stuff like the frontier times when there was like pioneers and stuff that kind of stuff. um so like
okay. You know about plowshares, like the
well, hold
the
on,
the
hold on.
problems with
Before I get too
plowshares.
deep into
Okay,
that, I just
sorry.
wanted to say like that's like one possible solution to one of the problems that I felt I was facing as an individual, and I also know a lot of people face just food crisis type of stuff. I know that there's simple things we could do to address that or fix that, but I don't see the infrastructure put in place from the governments, from the money that we get taxed on in all different kinds of ways. I don't see it directly serving our best interests or even serving us very well at all. Like sure there's food banks and there's drives and different things, but it's like it just always seems like half-hearted in a sense. And so what I was thinking is how do I take the initiative upon myself as a civilian, non-government entity, non-political leader, etc., and bring people together similar to me to create some type of either infrastructure or some type of network that helps us to serve our own best interests. And it wasn't just about like food and money, but also to give you an avenue or an opportunity to feel like you can grow spiritually, whatever that looks like. So yeah,
Resources as a whole, not which includes like mental health, like something you were talking
yeah,
about, man.
yeah.
Because there's
A big part of the group is
uh,
always okay. If you join this group, you are now no longer alone. You have every single other person in this group. We're even if we're all antisocial to a degree or whatever it may be, like we're here for each other. We go through similar things. And like you remember one of the biggest things I was trying to promote was more conversations and more talking about different things and getting people to be involved. I think the biggest issue with that was just the platform we were using, and so it's a matter of finding people on the platforms they're on, unifying them through there, and then having the overarching idea that is this is how, and that's what unites us, you know.
yes.
And then the basically the next step is show people, hey, this is how we created our community. This is the idea that we're trying to make. It's like-minded people group together, work together, and then work with other groups. This can be used as a blueprint and an inspiration for you to create your community. and then together we can work as a network or a group of communities to serve the greater purpose of the people as the people, instead of waiting for the governments or for the right amount of money to be put together. If we put our resources and our minds and our hearts together, like, anything's possible basically. It's just a matter of us being willing to do that, and then finding a way to organize well enough to be able to like put into action our ideas, you know? So yeah, that's
This
the
is
whole
still something
idea.
we're very much interested in, and that's kind of one of the reasons that uh, I've decided to dedicate a large portion of my channel to the This Is How community. Um, I want we still want to do this. I mean, we don't know, we're not ready to change the world, obviously, but we're ready to start talking about it. We're ready to start involving people who can help other people, or people who need help sometimes too, man. Man, sometimes you just need somebody to be there. And so
Yeah,
we've enjoyed being those people.
yeah, and that's a big part of it. It's like if you just feel alone and like you've reached out to people and they're just not so much there, or you feel like they don't understand or haven't gone through things you've gone through. Myself, you, Unbound, and a few of the other people that are still around, like, just between us, we have enough experience and patience and understanding to be there for just about anybody, to listen and to give good advice, or to just be a positive network in people's lives. Because I know for sure
Of course,
we have been for each other.
of course, that there are also expectations. It's like you don't. If you're gonna ask for help, we expect you to listen
Yeah,
to the people who have the information that they can give you. I've seen a lot of people not want to take any advice, and you just kind of, I mean, at some point there's a point where they're not going to do anything for themselves, and just letting them continue to ask you to bend your ear for them to need help, and them to need help when they don't listen to things that the community can provide them as answers. And that's what the community, and when I say that, I mean that we have people from all walks of life, all kinds of experiences, or at least we want to where that if somebody has been where you are, but you know what? I want you to listen,
and not only
and I
that,
want you to. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, don't forget, we've had conversations with strictly members of the community from Hawaii to the United Kingdom all at the same time. It took a little bit of planning, but that's happened before. And like our ideas, our messages, it goes beyond the lands that separate us. It goes beyond the oceans that separate us. And with the technology we have available to us, it almost makes no sense that we're not using it to our full advantage to share our ideas, to connect with one another, and to use it to find ways to create prosperity in our communities. And I think that this is a big first step in what we're trying to do. And hopefully, if it goes well, we can bring more people on and help them to find whatever niche or whatever way it is that they can create opportunities and, better financial situation, etc., for themselves. That's a big part of this community, if not the biggest core value, is that to be a part of this, you don't have to believe what we believe. You don't have to do things like how we do it. You don't have to really be anything like us. All you have to be willing to do is say, I want to better myself. I want more for myself, and by extension, I want more for the people around me. And that's basically it. It's it's kind of like a self-help book, but as a community. It's This is how I change the things about me in order to get a better reality. This is how I change the way I deal with other people so that we get along better and we can all find prosperity. Because at the end of the day, who doesn't want that, you know?
100%.
The only people that might disagree are the selfish or those that are seeking to control. And that a big part of that is ego and fear. We don't need to control things. In fact, we don't have any control. It's not until you realize that and let go of that feeling that you can start to find peace. And that's one of the things that we're trying to offer ourselves and everyone else through this community. So
Well,
yeah.
the beautiful thing is that you have control over yourself. Um, if you can learn to exercise it, because it is an exercise. Because self-control is not just something that we're just handed. It's not
Hmm.
an easy thing. For some people, it does come easier than it does for others. There's no question for that. But the reality is that it's very personally responsible. Um, and well, I lost my train of thought.
There's a big focus on personal responsibility and self-development. That's, I think, the message. But as long as you're willing to try to dedicate yourself to that, you have everybody else here to help you.
Well, yeah, and because well, we're all gonna fall short, right? You know, okay, you and I were talking the other day about you were talking about sin, and I my understanding of sin, as opposed to being just morally bad or wrong, was like at the very base roots of it means missing the mark. Like it's an archer's term.
Mm-hmm.
I was aiming for something, but I didn't hit my target, and it's very deep, uniquely personal experience, honestly. Um,
Ooh, and can I add to that real quick with my idea?
I,
So
I mean, I
so
brought it
yeah.
up so that you could
Speaking
add
of
to it.
the concept of sin, like how I had described it was that sin basically means self-destruction or the opposite of self-empowerment or self-growth, etc. Whatever's good for you on a soul level, whatever that means to you, the opposite of that would be to quote unquote sin. Now, what is interesting is that if you look at the word sin in Spanish, it means without. So if you say like sin azúcar, asking about a coffee, you're saying I want a coffee without sugar. What I think is very
My dad took me to Panama and he told me to order shrimp sin cabeza.
all right. Anyway, my point is, if you think about it, sin is without, meaning what's inside is kind of going out or away. There is nothing within. And that's kind of the point is you want to take your focus and go within and figure out what's there. Figure out what's at the core of me and how do I embody that and kind of bring that forward. And a really good metaphor I use all the time is that we are not these bodies. The body is like the paintbrush. And what we really are, what you really are, is the art that's waiting to flow through that paintbrush. So that's what it means to go within. That's what it means to be the opposite of quote unquote sin. It just means to embody your truest self and then bring that forward and then try to inspire other people to bring it out of themselves too and then see how beautiful and magical we can make this place. Because I feel or I believe that we all have something beautiful to bring out of ourselves. And when we do that, the connections we can have with each other and the experiences we can create, there's nothing like it, basically. To live in harmony, I guess you could say.
I agree. I agree. And I think that the archery term that I was talking about, I think it says it's a similar thing. It means aim better.
Yeah, don't miss the mark.
Yes.
And I think that that's the mark is to live with prosperity and unity and harmony in mind,
Or
consciously.
at least to continue working towards hitting the mark.
Yeah, of course.
You
Yeah. Like don't expect
yes.
it to be that and if it doesn't get there, feel shame or upset. It's just like we are going to strive for this knowing full well we will not
Yeah.
attain it entirely. But
Sure. Yeah,
that's
you
what
may not hit the
separates us.
bullseye every time, and you may not be perfect, but man, but put the work in. Put the work in. Try to be that embodiment of your true self.
Yeah. I think that's the perfect encapsulation of what our community is. That's what it was for me before I met anyone else and told anyone else about it. I was feeling like I was empty and lacking inside. And once I took the initiative to be like, you know what? Who am I really? And what do I really want and need out of this place? That's when I started to figure out what my truth is, live that, become that person. And as soon as I did that, I met Unbound. I met friends like DJ and like Demon I just see on call. We call her Queen, and some other people. And that's like it immediately shifted. There was an immediate shift. And so now it's just about keeping that spark alive, harnessing it, building it up, and then trying to share that with other people so that they can enjoy what I enjoy, which is peace and happiness as opposed to fear and panic and sadness and anguish and all these other things. So yeah,
And of course, it's always a struggle too. I mean, even after all the good stuff, man, it doesn't mean every day is gonna be a fucking cakewalk.
absolutely. But luckily, when you when you gear yourself towards trying to do these things and you associate yourself around people like us, you know that you can fail and that you can fall down and make mistakes, etc. And you know that you won't be alone when you need somebody to
Yeah,
pick you up.
there'll be people
We're
there
here.
for you.
Yep.
We're here.
And
Fucking A, man.
that's one of the best parts. It's like I'm no longer afraid to try because I know people believe in me. It's just up to me now. And we're there.
We've spent some time working on this project and just trying to figure out what it is and how to approach it I mean, what, how, like 3 years now, Pete?
Something like that. Yeah. Since like the height of this
Um,
pandemic, when everybody couldn't even go to work, that's when we met.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that was a huge factor in everything too. It's like, how alone did you feel when the pandemic happened? How strong was your support group if you have one? And if not, were you suffering too? Well, this is to be in place of something like that ever happening again. This is one way, at least.
that's funny that you say that because right now I'm working from home. It's like, Jesus, I'm starting to feel like, cabin fever.
Yeah.
But it got dark there for a while. Like, okay, as Pete and I were getting really trying hard to get all these things going. I don't know if it was me or him or both of us. I know I suddenly, after dealing with listening to so many stories and trying so hard to be there for so many people, I did catch a little bit of the burnout. And so I took a hiatus for a little bit. I had to take a break. Um, I had a lot of things going on in my life, but um, it's kind of funny that I have found myself right back into it, and it was just in perfect timing because it seems like whatever funk that was affecting me has stopped affecting a lot of other people because I've been seeing a lot of other people that I used to interact with a lot kind of coming up out of the woodwork and going, "Hey,
Yep.
where you guys at?"
The same rock everyone was under just got picked up.
It really fucking did, and I don't know what did it, but I'm glad it was.
I think it was the weather, honestly.
For a whole year.
Man, this whole year has been ridiculous. At least where I live, it went from too damn hot to immediately way too damn cold.
All right, fair enough. If I'll give it to you. If that maybe that was it. There's a possibility. I'm not gonna say that it's not.
I will say there was something in the air. Can't pinpoint it, but something. It was like an overarching feeling of like gloom and just antisocialness, kind of. And I've
Maybe
noticed
you
that in
just
a
get
lot of
sick of
people.
watching the government just fuck us completely every chance they get.
Maybe.
You know,
Well, all the more reason for us to come together with a renewed sense of passion and interest in these topics because ultimately the only thing that's going to change, say if our government falls and we start, going down the feudal path of becoming like groups and fighting one another for land and resources and over ideas, the only thing that's going to save us is unity. That's it. It's unity or it's war. So we have to figure out what things unite us, what's important to us, and be willing to fight and die for those things. And hopefully we won't have to.
you know what? You just reminded me. You just reminded me. Obviously, my answer to your initial question: Are governments necessary? Yes, the Texas government is necessary. We're about to be our own fucking nation again, boy.
I'm dead at you.
Not really. Not really. I wish, but it.
That was great.
That would be good. See, I do what I do. Okay, so you want unity? You want unity?
Hmm.
Big Texas still nation. I'm gonna tell you, we're gonna be unified like a motherfucker, even with all of our diversity. because we've already been that for a long time.
This is why I
We're
go into the spiritual stuff. Like, not to step on what you're saying, because I want you to continue that. But imagine
no, no.
if
I was just making jokes, man. I'm just trying to. I'm just trying to be entertaining.
oh, you're good. You're hella entertaining, bro. Even when you're not trying. But I was gonna say if we could figure out that, so like that whole concept of a soul and a spirit. I know it's like in the religious context and stuff, but if every one of us could just find a commonality with those kind of ideas, like I don't know what it is necessarily, I can't define it physically, but I feel and I experience something that comes through me. It's like a direct connection through me to something. I don't know what it is, but I feel it. If we can relate to one another on that specific feeling alone and say, I don't know what it is, but I feel it and you feel it too, that's what unites us. And to me, that is the concept of namaste, which is the divine light within me recognizes and appreciates the divine light within you. It's just, it's kind of like we recognize one another's divinity or godliness, or we recognize that we are all deserving of respect. And when we start to treat one another like that, we inspire that in our culture, and that becomes virtuous. It's like like be I want to kill you with kindness to the point where you want to do it to me back harder. And then once we start doing that, we inspire one another to be great in that way. Just like how we inspire each
I
other to be degenerate.